and sequence will be Vilas ji, Dr. Rakesh, Dr. Shashank, Mr. Ugendra, and Architect Rajiv. So this is the sequence. Is this done?
Done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we can start now. Karan, आप start कर दीजिए. आप मुझे okay बोलेंगे तब मैं start करूँगा, Karan.
Start, sir.
Thank you, Karan. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear audience, our professionals, students and faculties from across the nation. I would welcome you all on this afternoon, Monday afternoon, for this another wonderful session by ASSOCHAM GEM Green Building Council. So thank you so much for joining us and making this entire mega event a very, very successful event. We are receiving many wonderful feedback on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and WhatsApp regarding the success of this program and your best wishes for the program. So myself, Neeraj Arora, I am Senior Director at ASSOCHAM and look after the GEM Green Building Certification Program of ASSOCHAM. And we have a very wonderful topic today. It is sustainability challenges in high-rise buildings. So friends, this is day 4 and our second session of this day. We have wonderful speakers with us, starting with Mr. Pankaj Dharkar, who is the founder chairman of ASSOCHAM GEM Green Building Council. We have Dr. Roshni Udawar, who is the co-chairperson GEM Maharashtra Chapter and Director Roshni Udawar and Associates. Architect Vilas Vaskanji, who is the chairman of GEM Maharashtra Chapter and is the managing director of Messrs. Vilas Avachat and Associates. We have Dr. Rakesh Kumarji with us. Welcome, sir. He is the director of National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, DERI. We have Dr. Shashank Mendeleji, who is the fellow Indian Institute of Engineers. Welcome, sir. We have Mr. Ugendra Chettiarji, who is the principal consultant, Chettiar Consulting Engineers. Welcome, sir. We have architect Rajiv Taishateji, who is the secretary of GEM Maharashtra Chapter and principal architect of Rajiv Taishate and Associates, architectural environmental consultancy firm. Welcome, sir. And here I would like to invite Mr. Pankaj Dharkar for his very encouraging and energetic speech, sir. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and once again, warm welcome to our major event, 7 days event of ASSOCHAM GEM. And I'm really thankful to our GEM Maharashtra team, Mr. Vilas Avachat ji, Roshni ji, and Rajiv ji for organizing this evening event on sustainability challenges in high-rise building. Very dear subject for me, though I live in Ahmedabad, my work happens in Mumbai, so I know what all challenges could be acute from the sustainability point of view. And we are really delighted to have eminent personalities like Dr. Rakesh Kumarji, Shashank Mendeleji, and also my colleague Ugendra. So you are going to have a wonderful time, and I must thank all the speakers, all the 6 speakers this evening for sparing their valuable time. I'll just cover our ASSOCHAM GEM certification program briefly, but to whom they are not aware, the ASSOCHAM is comprising of 400 chambers with 4.5 lakhs members across the country, working towards creating the conducive environment of India's business to compete globally. And we are very proud that we are headed currently by Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani ji, who is he's well-known figure in Mumbai, so he needs no introduction, but he is the person who is driving us, and he's ably assisted by Vinit Agarwal ji, who is our VP and past president Balkrishna Goenka ji. We have Secretary General in Deepak Sood, and Neeraj and his team is ably helping us to put forward various certification programs. So ASSOCHAM has taken this green initiative to care for mothers and to complement India's sustainability movement and have formed this CGEM. And our vision is not to compete with any other certification agency, but to complement good work being done by them. We all know that the certification program started in India way back in 2000, 2001, and we have currently got only 6,500 buildings which got registered and 2,500 plus got certification. So we do believe that we require a mass movement in the country for creating sustainability movement, and that is where we thought with ASSOCHAM 450,000 members we can bring that change to the country. So GEM certification program therefore is very, very transparent, very, very easy. One can download. This is available free of cost, and we are continuously upgrading our certification programs. Yesterday on Sunday we launched standards for healthcare facility. They have become very important post-COVID, and also on this 3rd of December we will be launching another series for the warehousing and logistics, because we all see our outskirts of our cities coming up with large warehousing facilities, and post-COVID the e-commerce is also going to change its face. So this is the area where we feel that our warehousing should also be sustainable, and therefore we are coming up with these standards. Our certification program is completely based on ECBC 2017 and National Building Code 2016. We all believe that these are beautiful documents which Indian architects and engineers have provided not only to the country but also to the globe. And our program is completely addressing the sustainability, energy, water efficiency, more green spaces, indoor air quality, which has become very important, daylighting, fresh air and human comfort. This is the only program, sir, in the world which also gives accreditation to the fire and life safety in the building, and that is so important for tall buildings, today's subject. So this is the only program in the world on the green certification side which addresses this issue, and we all believe that any certified building will have a payback of 3 to 4 years, and we all know that buildings are created for more than 50 years. In fact, before yesterday we had a very interesting topic on heritage restoration, and we were delighted to see some projects 200 years back constructed which were green, and it was a fascinating journey for all of us for last 2 days. Friends, another big feature which GEM provides is real-time monitoring platform which is available in Delhi. So all certified projects, we are monitoring the energy consumption, water consumption, indoor air quality, and we are doing this just in 20,000 rupees, and this is being done to create a data bank, to create a benchmarking, and we all know that this benchmarking is lacking. So to Roshni, for their institute, if students wants to do some research work, come up with new equipments or new envelope designs, where is benchmarking? We are lacking there. Hardly few projects have this benchmarking. So through ASSOCHAM GEM, we are doing real-time monitoring and creating this data which will be used by these students of various universities for their future research work and for coming up with new envelope designs or new work. We have in place MOUs with several important associations like Indian Institute of Architects, Fire and Security Association of India, ISHRE, ASHRE, various chapters of ASHRE, International Association of Quality of Air, IAQA, Smart Habitat Foundation. We are also having ties with Global Association of Corporate Services, which is the facility managers who are maintaining these properties. Our friend ASSOCHAM has already got approval from Rajasthan government, and with this platform again I am requesting Vilasji and team to see that this gets recognition in Maharashtra also, and they are working very hard. I am very confident that this will soon happen. We are also enlisted by CRISIL along with other certification agencies. So CRISIL is important recognition which we have got in last 2 months' time. Our clients, certified client projects, clients are very proud to display our plaque and the certificates in their receptions and directors' cabin, and we are very proud that variety of projects, including pharmaceutical, JK Cement, electrical, electronics giant like Siemens, are certified by us with several universities across the country, the industries, and also luxury brand hotels like ITC and Hilton are certified by us. We started last year with our chapter formations. We started with Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and this year we installed chapters digitally, starting from UP, West Bengal, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh. Our own Maharashtra team was installed during this digital era. We will be soon going to close to 20 states, and also we are tying up with several several societies in Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. In fact, in this session, this particular program, where we are having more than 120 speakers, there are speakers from 10 countries are participating in this seminar. During this pandemic, we did two important projects. One was ensuring that we come up with lockdown, post-lockdown, when the buildings were again restarting, there were huge challenges. How do we start air conditioning, fire systems, electrical systems, plumbing systems? So all the societies were brought together, and we came up with a guideline which was taken to 29 states and 6 union territories. It is a wonderful document which I would urge all of you to take advantage, because this kind of situation happened globally for the first time. Another area where we are very much focusing is getting into energy performance contracting business awareness. We all know that there are huge number of stock buildings available which are not very energy efficient. So how do we upgrade the technology, and where the client doesn't have to pay upfront capex, and we are able to take back the money with the energy saving which we do. So we worked with Bureau of Energy Efficiency for this program along with the World Bank, and we have already done 2 programs, and another 3 programs are coming up in a few weeks. So this is a extraordinary work, and we believe with BE that this can really create close to 150,000 crores worth of business in the country. And so this will also create an opportunity for young engineers in terms of energy auditing, and so we can have various equipment suppliers who can upgrade the technologies. Our exams, our certified professional exam is very, very transparent, very, very easy. We are doing every month training sessions without any cost to people, and also once you are ready, you can give this exam online. It's a 90 minutes exam which can be given anytime, and it's an open book exam, and once you clear this, you become a GEM certified professional. Friends, we reached 62 universities during this pandemic and signed affiliation MOUs with them, and we have a mission to reach 100 universities. Our team under leadership of Vijay Garg Saab and other team members is working day night on this, and we believe that the young minds of tomorrow should only design a green building, and that is the reason by which we want to really create this awareness among students. And I'm sure we have a right co-chair in Roshni here in Maharashtra who is from this background, and she's going to really help us. I must also acknowledge that the maximum universities we have received are from Maharashtra currently out of the 62. This 7 days program, today we are on the 4th day of the program, starting on Friday. We have another 3 days to go, and varieties of different subjects have been covered, starting from sustainable lighting in built environment to heritage and old building restoration to various passive technologies. So it is amazing work which our team leaders, like today Maharashtra team is doing under our leadership of entire team is here. So I congratulate them with 120 speakers coming in these 7 days. And I'm really satisfied that our team of GEM is doing fantastic work in this pandemic. We covered more than 70,000 people through various webinars and seminars, have 62 MOUs with universities, with 10 MOUs with different organizations signed. So friends, let us join together to create a green and environment friendly, sustainable country and complement mission of our Prime Minister. So thank you very much once again, Maharashtra team, for putting forward such fantastic panelists today and ensuring we have a wonderful learning this evening. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Darkar ji, for this very energetic presentation. Thank you so much. Now I would request Dr. Roshni Udewar. As mentioned, Dr. Roshni is the co-chairperson of GEM Maharashtra Chapter and is the Director, Roshni Udewar Associates. Madam, I will not take much of the time and would like you to please moderate the session. Over to you, madam.
Thank you, Arora ji, and also Mr. Darkar for your very great introduction to GEM. First of all, I would like to congratulate the entire GEM team for this sustainability conclave, which is so much required, and the fantastic work that we have seen through all the webinars that were conducted during the pandemic time. May I request Aroraji to allow me to share? I think I still don't have the sharing.
Yeah.
Right.
Karan, please give the right to madam.
Yes, so I think this topic of today, sustainability challenges in high-rise buildings, is so very appropriate, especially that we are in many of the cities. This is the. Can you see my presentation? Yes, I think so.
Yes, yes. Make it full screen. This.
Yes, just making that. Yes. So I think that sustainability challenges in high-rise buildings is a very appropriate topic, considering that although in a country like India, we still don't see high-rises in all the places, but they are slowly emerging, especially in the tier 1 cities, of course, but tier 2 and tier 3 also there are high-rise buildings coming up. And we know that in some places like Mumbai, there is no other choice but to go for high-rise buildings. There are many issues related to high-rise buildings, and before we start this panel, I would just like to highlight a few of them. But I would just like to present to you some facts here by the Economic Times, which showed that the increase of high-rise buildings. So today we are seeing more and more housing projects, residential buildings also. Across top 7 cities, we see over 52% of these projects were high-rise buildings with ground plus 20 floors. So with this coming as a trend, we know that we have to be definitely prepared in order to see that these do not have, the footprint, the environment footprint is as minimal as possible. So some of the key issues, of course, our speakers are going to talk about it, but is, for example, density, that in a small patch of land, we have an increase in the number of people involved. So in terms of the road infrastructure, in terms of the water and everything, a lot of these infrastructure services which the municipality has to provide, it is definitely much more concentrated in the case of a high-rise building, and therefore we definitely need to think of sustainability, whether how we can provide for this much water or recycle the waste, or think about the huge amount of energy that is being consumed. It's just, for example, with respect to vertical transportation or lifts in the case of high-rise buildings. And there are many other factors such as, slenderness of the building, the wind pressures, the aesthetics also comes into the picture, and so many other aspects. And when we look at disasters, so there's the first thing comes to your mind is what happens in the case of fire. And last year we saw a few somewhat not so good cases that happened in the heart of Mumbai in Prabhadevi, where fire took place, unfortunately, and then when it took place, people found that the services were not adequate. Or we have other issues like, unfortunately, in a place like Mumbai, the buildings have to be close enough, dense enough, and there is this whole idea of using FSI and the SRA schemes and so on. So there is also something called as right to light, or having not enough light and ventilation when buildings are too close together, especially the buildings which are not the commercial buildings, but the other ones which have issues. There are social and community related issues, because you have to deal with a different class also over here. There is gated communities coming up. So there are a wide range of issues. One of the issues that I think is very important is also the envelope design. There are two aspects here in envelope that are important. One is the fact that how do you construct a tall building without using the most modern technologies? And today we know that people are going for either Maiwan shuttering or that kind of formwork, or glazing as an external. And this has probably huge implications in terms of the energy consumption of the building. For example, these 150 concrete walls which are being made, they have the thermal transmittance values of 3, which is way beyond what something like the energy conservation building 4 asks for, which is 0.44. So, or if the glazing, then obviously you have to use very high quality glazing, which definitely increases the cost of the building envelope. And also in terms of this building, materials, the circular economy principle. So, for example, in a high-rise building, you require so much more steel and concrete and cement and everything. So, how can you make things which will, what will happen to the end of life, or of the building? So, these are some of the issues. Apart from that, there are also issues related to ecology. So, if you have most of the high-rises, we see a lot of glazing, and that has effects with respect to the bird population, for example. There have been lots of research done on that. Or for that matter, in many of the cities, we see that high-rise buildings are built along the shore, and that somewhat blocks the wind to the rest of the city streets. So these are some of the issues. But today, we are not here to criticize the high-rise buildings. The purpose of this panel discussion is to, of course, hear the experts who are here, the eminent panel of speakers who will discuss the various issues and share with us. But our purpose is also to discuss how, if we are to construct high-rise buildings, what can be done sustainably. And here I want to point out to this particular picture where this is the theory or the unrealized dream of the French architect Le Corbusier, who called this city called as Radiant City, where he imagined that it will be made out of these high towering blocks, which will be residential or commercial. In the center of the city would be commercial, and then there will be an underground network of transportation systems for people to move around. And on the surface will be all open spaces and gardens. This is how he imagined it. And so I think that we have a choice of imagining our cities having a vision like this as well. So it need not be all negative. We need to have a vision, and that it can be definitely realized. And then we have examples of places like Singapore, where, of course, they have a huge land scarcity, and therefore they are going for high-rise buildings, and especially the public housing. So it's not that high-rise buildings in Singapore is restricted to the rich and the elite. It is more of the public body which is preparing housing for people. And in this case, they think of various aspects such as community interaction. So at various levels, they have prepared, spaces where they can playgrounds and gardens and so on and so forth. So there's a lot that is happening. Of course, there are architects like Ken Yang who have shown us how to make high-rise buildings green. And for example, this is the Marina One by Ingenhoven Architects, which is an extremely good example because it also includes vertical farming. It includes the concept of growing food within the vertical farms within this entire high-rise complex, and close to 20,000 people, living like in a self-sustainable system. So we have these choices, we have the vision, and with that, I would like to start this panel and introduce the speakers of today. And first of all, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Vilas Avchat, who is also the chairman of the Maharashtra Chapter of GEM. Mr. Vilas Avchat is the Vice President of the Indian Institute of Architects. He has nearly 40 years of experience in architectural practice. His firm, Vilas Avchat and Associates, specializes in residential and commercial high-rise buildings in India and abroad. He's a member of Professional Practice Committee of the UIA, and he's a visiting faculty at IES College for the last 20 years. He is a representative of the IIT for MCGM and the Urban Development Department for redevelopment projects. Over to you, Mr. Avchat. We would like to hear your viewpoint on this very important subject.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Roshni. Good evening, everybody. Pankajji Dharkar, Neerajji, Dr. Rakesh Kumar, Dr. Shashank Mendale, Mr. Ugendra Chettiar, my friend Raju, Taishete, Roshni, Yehuda, and friends. You all are well aware that due to recent economic growth and democratic trend, major cities in India are building high-rise residential buildings at more rapid rate than ever. The tall buildings in India are seen largely as a sensible solution for the sustaining high-density development in the rapid urbanized area. Like New York City, the Asian cities have seen intense competition both internally and amongst each other in erecting sky-high buildings. Designing such buildings in a commercial realm has been particularly important as symbol of power and prestige. The phenomenon, however, has been less relevant to the recent residential development where tall building living is simply necessity to meet the market demands, but still power and prestige is there. As we stand in the 21st century, the international landscape of high-rise residential design will continue to evolve in the response to new development in technology and our choice of lifestyle. High-rise living has become synonymous with one of the greatest urban experiences of our time. In terms of skyscraper or even terms of architectural design in general, the 21st century may be well become the century of the residential skyscraper, sky-high living, a way to the life of many. The architectural design of 21st century skyscraper has been redefined due to the advancement of modern technology and due to globalization. Due to change of technologies, it has changed the architectural design of skyscrapers dramatically in terms of function, design, structure, heating and cooling system. In the status of it's a status of society. A skyscraper has always associated with the wealth and power. To general public, the big is good. In the term of building, the taller is better. Over the years, a steel and concrete production technologies reaches higher level. The architects use them, new material, to reach the greater height in design of skyscraper. The new function of skyscraper is to provide great views, house antenna for the communications, telebroadcastings, and entertainment purpose like swimming pools, health clubs, gymnasium, spa, jogging tracks, terrace gardens, and whatnot. With income growing in a large number of the people moving from urban areas, the demand for the housing is on upswing, and the survey says that sooner 60% villages will turn into urban areas. Of course, that's a really sad thing, I can say, but you can't help. Due to high construction cost and non-availability of the land, at preferred location, the people opt to go high-rise. These apartments offer many advantages, of course, many challenges too. Today's upwardly mobile life and the work in a high-rise building with the terraces and balconies overlooking the cityscape In India, the majority of the such buildings are seen in a commercial capital, Mumbai, that is already overstretched. The Mumbai has more than 7,000 high-rise buildings. It's the 16th highest number of the skyscraper in the world. While high-rise may seem the easiest and the most popular solution in the short run, there are several long-term issues need to address. High-rise buildings require an integrated, multidisciplinary design process, systematic approach for the design, construction to operations and maintenance to create solutions to optimism, building cost and performance. A design can be significantly improve the sustainability of high-rise. The service core, the size and its location can always play a vital role. Simultaneously, the position of the columns, shear wall, of course, Dr. Mende and Dr. Rakesh Kumar and all can highlight on that more. The shear walls, its sizes, it's always matter a lot in high-rise buildings. The peripheral service core positions are more beneficial as you do not require a pressurization depth, resulting to the lower operations cost, provision of natural light and ventilation to the staircase and lift lobbies are safer even in a total power failure. Of course, alternate power supplies need to provide for every high-rise building. The architect need to play a crucial role while designing the service core with a different discipline consultant, such as structural consultant, MEP consultant, fire consultant, lift consultant, mechanical parking consultant, even though the ramp is preferred for the high-rise buildings for the parking floors, but due to smaller sizes of the plot, it's difficult to provide a ramp for the parking floors. We need to go for a mechanical parking. These are the few sustainable challenges we need to address. We have to come out the different solutions with this. Further, the high-rise committee we have. In Mumbai, we have a high-rise committee which, there are many clearances required. The clear width of the access, location, the width, the number of staircases, the width of the staircase, the number of elevators, natural ventilation staircase and the common lobbies, the minimum net plot size, then the depth of the numbers of the basement, area, locations, refuse areas, open spaces, podiums, parking floors, and the traffic study and traffic management. Similarly, the geotechnical points are also required, which is a soil report indicating the soil strata, depth of the hard rock, etc. Details of the rock anchoring. If any basement is to be provided, then all this is required. The details of the soil retaining method, the type of the foundation, pile foundation, rough foundation, or any other open foundation. Then structural point of view, we have a design base, DBR for the proposals, various types of tests required, wind tunnel test, gas factor and the deflection, time factor and the modes. There are CFO points of view, the height, refuse floors, then the sequences of refuse floor, the location of refuse floor, the area of the refuse floor, percentage of refuse floor, the clear open spaces, turning radius for or maneuvering for the fire tender machine, then width, gradient, ramp, etc. So many things. But further, as the high-rise committee suggestions are there, we architect plan the things accordingly. After that, what happens? Who is doing that vigilance? Who knows what is going on after, okay, we get the clearances and we take that clearances and that's our job? No, I think that's not the where we should stop. We have to have a vigilance. after that, we never know. We are, of course, Dr. Mahendra can speak very well on that because he is in that committee. But I'm not blaming to anybody. But this is authorities which need to take care of that. We always design, we provide all sorts of provisions which is made in the building. But what happens, suppose while working on the site exactly, while construction, while executing it, we have so many problems are occurring and we change it. Then what? Who is going to monitor that? So whatever the list given by, approval given by the high-rise committee or the structural engineers, how do we know that we are doing the same thing? So that point is a very important, vital point. I think we should think in that term. We, ASSOCHAM GEM, Maharashtra Chapter, would like to start the rating of high-rise buildings. Of course, with the help of all these stalwart people, definitely we can come out with the right rating systems for the high-rise, which is, I think, not yet there till now. I have a few things to be shown on the screen. Can I share my can I share get the share for the screen?
You have the right, sir.
I have rights. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I have that. Okay. Yes. Of course, it's just a few things which I thought to share. This is a Mumbai skyline. Of course, everybody knows it. We all are from Mumbai. And this service core, which is a really important factor if we have a light and ventilation from the natural light and ventilation. These are the few projects, of course, which I have done. But, where we have definitely taken care to provide a light and ventilation. Right now also in the site when we see, we get a very good light and ventilation. So it works very well. So that is an important factor instead of using it for the mechanical ventilation or light. So we are saving in that term. These are the terraces, balconies, which can be used as a green building, which can be used as a gardening. It is very important. So this balcony system in this today's DCR is gone. Nobody will like to provide a balconies because it comes in FSI. Earlier, this was all free of FSI. Of course, that factor is again a different. That story we cannot talk right now, but this is another factor for that. These are the few lift lobbies. These are the few things where you can see the provision of lift lobbies and all. Of course, these are some of my projects, which we have already come out at Worli, Prabhadevi, Dadar. Of course, my area of the working is in the city itself, not in suburbs. But suburbs, we face many different problems because here in Mumbai cities, at least in city, we have a lot of the road widening is there, road width are more, whereas in suburb there are much more problems. So these are the few things. This is one of the buildings which we have done at Chicago. This is the building also again at one of the Chicago which we have done for. This is a commercial building, of course. That's what. But here is the center court. We have this is a parking systems for which we have. We cannot have a ramp everywhere. So these are the car lifts are provided and the parking is provided, mechanical parking. So these are the ramp which one can provide if the space is allowed. But it's difficult actually in Mumbai city because the plot sizes are really small. Again, the slenderness ratio is also coming 1:9, which is there. That also is a problematic thing, but we need to address that also. These are the few things which I think everybody is aware of that, which I'm just passing those. But these are some formwork which we need, which is stain formwork. Then we require my one formwork is there. These all things is required for the high-rise building to construct at early stage, at earlier, I mean, these are the power train and tower train lift, all this is required. And then the piling and this, of course, these are the huge number of concrete and steel and all these workers, these are the very important factor, the cranes and actually most important factor is our, these are the more workers are more important, whereas we have a very, very less workers, skilled workers. We need to develop that skill by now, as our Prime Minister has, Prime Minister Yojana is there where skilled laborers can be trained. I think this is a very important factor where we can train them with, because now in this COVID situation, we all have faced so much of problem because of this. All the laborers are gone from our Mumbai or wherever, from the cities to their native place. Of course, they need to go, but then we cannot help. I mean, so we need to have our own laborers, or maybe a skilled laborers. We should have some training centers over here, which we do not have, which I think one should take care. So this is also a part of a sustainability. Otherwise, our cities can't sustain without this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vilasji, for that presentation, which highlights the importance of the one very important point you said was the integrated team that is required for designing. A whole lot of people working in cooperation and building together. It's not that easy, and you have done that. I can imagine there are many challenges, both technical as well as dealing with people and so on. So thank you for that very interesting presentation and introduction to high-rise building challenges, and some of the important points also that you have pointed out, which we will discuss regarding monitoring and vigilance. So next I would like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Rakesh Kumar. He requires no introduction. He is Director of CSIR NEERI since 2016. And he has made a significant contribution in development of various environmental technologies, from air pollution control to water and wastewater treatment, hazardous and municipal waste management, EIA, environmental audit, modeling, health, and climate change. So he's got a wide variety of experience in various environmental technologies with a huge number of patents as well. He's an adjunct professor at CEAC IIT Bombay and was also visiting faculty at Drexel University, Philadelphia till 2015. He is a recipient of numerous awards, including the US AEP's Environmental Leadership Award and many others. He is a member of many government committees and panels, including expert member for state-level appraisal committee 2 for MMR and Konkan region. And he was previously a member of the high-rise committee for large and tall construction in Mumbai. Welcome, Dr. Rakesh Kumar. We would like to hear your views.
So thank you, Dr. Roshni. I think many of the points that I wanted to discuss was probably covered by you and Architect Avjit. So I will go in a little different way, in terms of wanting to share a few thoughts. So I had some bullet points, probably I'll share that, and then maybe we can have discussion on that if you feel it's okay.
Yes.
Can you see the slide?
Yes, so make it a full screen. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So one of the issue which we started discussing, when the first set of smart cities announcement happened in 2014, and some of these things which we got into discussion, that what do we do for our country. So these discussions have still continued to remain relevant. And when we say urban renewal, we need to talk about climate change adaptation, because the number of cities who are getting now inundated and flooded because of change in climate is something which we cannot deny anymore. Earlier we thought it will take 50, 60 years for climate change impact to be seen. But now we can see that it's impacting us on a daily basis. And of course, tourism and women's safety is something which I thought it was worth highlighting. So when we were talking about integrating that whole process, so I'll come to the high-rise building as such later. The urbanization and urban development is something which we need to look at from a different angle, and how do we do integration of these. So one is this, when we talk about spatial, social and economic, and unless we combine those three with resources and economics. And why I'm saying that is, particularly in the context of Mumbai, is more true that we are wanting to finance whole of slum redevelopment, taking from somebody else and then building them. I'm not sure whether that many resources and economics is working out for that. So what is needed is that we look at the whole picture together, and then we move forward as we want to do it. Just a couple of examples which already Roshni talked about. We have a tendency of making so-called gated communities. So you have big, tall walls which we create, and obviously the whatever footpath is left, people don't want to walk because the way it is created is just not walkable. But if we can do the same thing in a very different way, and people here in the panel who are a very well-known architect and they know this, this is a place which has been done in Delhi. And UTPEC has come out with a very good guideline, and I would encourage that most of the cities should start adopting it. How to do placemaking for particularly pedestrian area and the place where we need to walk. The other thing which is very important, which used to happen earlier, is that if we have tall, so-called boundary walls, there is no way somebody can see outside, and definitely from outside people can't see inside. The domain of privacy is good. The domain of privacy where crime can go on increasing because you have no one to look at the street is not very good thing to do. This is something which was already discussed by previous panels, and when I was in high-rise committee for almost 8-9 years, we introduced this whole idea of wind movement, light and ventilation. And why I'm saying this is, in the beginning there was a lot of resistance. I would say resistance to the angle of people saying that this person is not fit for a high-rise committee. And then I had to do a lot of reading around from Russia and Dutch and New Zealand, you name it, and almost all countries' data and everything I put together. And then I realized that unless until we start thinking about it now, we will face this problem later on. And I'm not sure how many of you have heard. There is a study which was carried out by a set of doctors on the TB incidents in Mumbai. So they actually compared two different slum rehabilitation projects which has been done in Mumbai only. The one which was highly dense and straight, wall-like creation, and the other one which had good ventilation and also the density being almost same. And the number of incidents of tuberculosis was much higher in the previous one. And it actually shows that light and ventilation, even in current times, in the COVID times, is a critical component of our living being. If we don't do it, the same people who are living in those buildings come and work with us as driver or our help or our office. So we need to be worried about this. So there is always a way out. We need to think about it and how do we do it in a particular way. So while in each of these committees, so-called environmental appraisal committees or high-rise committees, we always look at plots. So you have 800 square meter, 1000 square meters plot, and we try to see what best you can do. But it's important to look at completely cumulative impact of all of these things together. And that can only happen when we take a look which is from the top and bring in all interdisciplinary character to the whole debate. It is not an issue of an architect, it's not an issue of a structural engineer, it's not an issue of environmentalist, it's not an issue of urban planner, it's an issue of almost everyone. And unless we bring that component, which we kept trying to do as much as possible, we succeeded to some extent. Some of our high-rise related components and ideas got replicated and adopted even in Delhi, which worked out very well. So at the end, I would say, just to put my thoughts here and then we can debate as we go ahead. The whole idea of FSI increase, the way we have been thinking, is to solve a problem. Are we solving the problem or are we creating a problem? We always felt that increase in FSI should actually lead to more open spaces on the ground, which unfortunately has not been seen to be happening. And if it is happening, why it should be happening? Parking is a big issue. and for that a whole lot of permutation combinations and I would say technology applications have been done. I'm sure that there are more requirements of thinking processes in terms of how do we do it, how do we make our buildings which are more sustainable. SRA projects, unfortunately, there are a whole lot of guidelines, but very little guideline to how to make space and comfort in all of these projects. Earlier slum redevelopment project used to be smaller, so there was no need of thinking in a different way. But most of the SRA projects now, at least in Mumbai and MMR region, they're almost like another high-rise building. So we need to be really worried about it. Other issues which I said, sewage and solid waste have become an issue. So one of the building or few of these buildings could be almost equivalent to a city or a ward, if not city. So if we don't plan these sewage management and solid waste management, we are creating a nuisance. And I can tell you 3 or 4 hotspots in Mumbai where high rises have come, where people are falling in because the sewage and the solid waste are not being managed well. I'm not saying treatment, but just managing all of these. So my only suggestion and request is that why don't we work together and put all the ingredients so that we bring in that discussion which is important to solve the problems. And actually the reason why I'm saying that is we have enough material and masala to think about it. If I was saying this about 15 years back, I was probably wrong. But we have enough number of projects which are there, and we can actually see what has worked for us and what has not worked for us. So this is the time to rethink, and we as a research institution are very keen to bring in new thinking. And anytime people come from different background and talk to us, we feel excited, and I remain excited even now to look at these problems as a real life problem where science and technology can solve it. Thank you. And I look forward to discussion and debate.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh Kumar, for that very crisp and concise presentation with all the points included in it. I think that you raised some very key issues, especially the UDPFI guidelines. I think those are very, very important because, as you rightly said, we are looking at within the plots what happens. So we try to make the best of the building, but what happens outside? So that's very important, especially you talked about issues of women's safety, which is increasing in places like Noida and places they are making these gated communities. Outside that is not at all safe. So we just can't think of buildings alone. We need to think of what is happening to the city also. And actually, I always look at Singapore as an example where they are making these buildings very, very integrated as part of the entire city. So. Thank you for that. We'll look for more discussions on this. Let me move on to the next speaker, Dr. Shashank Mehendale. Dr. Mehendale has a PhD from VJTI Mumbai, a Master's in Construction from NICMAR, and MS Structure from University of New Brunswick, Canada. He's a Fellow of the Indian Institute of Engineers, Indian Society of Structural Engineers. He's on the board of several committees, including he's a chairman for the Structural Subcommittee and vice chairman of Urban Development Subcommittee of PIATA, which is Practicing Architects, Engineers and Town Planners Association for 2020-21. He's a member of the panel for consultants for heritage conservation and other important projects of MCGM. He has he's a member of the technical committee for high-rise buildings, of course. And he has several publications to his credit, and he has been working for the past 22 years through his firm Shashank Mehendale and Associates, which has completed a wide range of structural projects, including some of Asia's and India's first. Over to you, Dr. Mehendale, for your views.
Thank you. I think going after Rakesh Kumar sir is a difficult thing because sustainability we learned from Dr. Rakesh Kumar. So first of all, let me admit that sirs, we totally agree with whatever you say because whatever we understand a little about sustainability started with your active role in the high-rise committee. So with that, what I will try to do, what I'm going to do is basically discuss about few issues which are not really highly technical, because we are not discussing about what does the high-rise committee look into in terms of approval. So we are not going to look into the extent of shear walls which should be provided. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So basically, I'm not going to get into those technical details because I presume we have a structural engineer and an architect who is going to speak on those issues. After Rakesh Kumar sir has discussed about the critical issues faced by us in an urban environment with high rises, I thought let me concentrate as a practicing professional, how do we make high rises sustainable? I think the speakers have discussed about whether high rises can be sustainable, because I think high rise by itself is a fair amount of energy guzzler in its construction process itself. But certainly we can try to make it as sustainable as possible. And probably the issues I'm going to discuss today are more fundamental without getting into specifics, because I think speakers after me could get into the specific issues. How do we make a high-rise sustainable? I think this is, again, I'm confining myself to the plot. We are not looking at the urban environment, which Rakesh Kumar sir spoke about, because that is more at the policy level one is looking at. But within a particular plot, when you want to build a high rise, how do you make it sustainable is what I'm going to focus on. Well, I feel there are three areas which are crucial in this. One is design, because the sustainability starts at design. Vilas Avsadji has already indicated that ventilation plays an important role. So is indicated by Rakesh Kumar sir. So basic planning itself is extremely crucial. We will talk a little bit about that. Second is construction, because ultimately efficient ways of construction using minimum material, optimal use of resources is what one would look at. The other is maintenance practices. I think a lot has been discussed about monitoring. I think it is equally important to know about maintenance of these buildings, because many a times green buildings, efficient buildings get built and then they get altered at a later date. So what we are looking at is probably we can minimize, though not eliminate, the negative impact of constructing super tall buildings on environment, because it's inevitable to build it in current scenario. So in terms of design, what do we try to do? We try to design to optimize the consumption of materials, that is steel and concrete, and presuming predominantly the buildings are RCC structures, though you can also have structural steel buildings with enclosures. Use of fly ash, PPC cement is very important. One important point which I would like to mention, that we as structural community are against use of secondary steel or re-rolled steel. I think this is one mindset which we need to carefully, I'm using the word carefully because re-rolled steel is not necessarily good, but we need to look at intelligent use of controlled re-rolled structural steel or even reinforcement steel. Recycle aggregate with proper quality control. AAC blocks, I think now many of us are only using AAC blocks. We are no more using bricks or concrete blocks because they are more energy efficient. Ready-mix green bonding agents for plasters like gypsum vermiculite. I think these are few things which we need to look into. Use of dry walls instead of brick and block work. I think Roshni madam also mentioned about this, because the insulation properties and other stuff is way better and it's way controlled here. Going a little bit on the infrastructure development side, you can use gabion walls with the locally available stone rather than trying to use heavy concrete walls with anchors. Use of bioenzymes for improving these CBR values so that road could be made efficient. These are some of the examples. There could be many, but first way we start to look at a sustainable high rise is we have to look at it in the design perspective. Most of the steel is largely recyclable without suffering from any downcycling. Due to this, we can actually look at good quality secondary steel. With proper quality control, we may use it as primary members, but we can certainly use them in secondary members. This probably could reduce large-scale dependence on extraction of iron ore and creating new steel all the time. This is one issue I think we need to look at. Today, government departments do not allow use of re-rolled steel because probably there are not proper monitoring processes which are laid and certifying agencies there. So this is one area which we could look at. Quality control will be important because re-roll does not mean that scrap is recycled and given to us. The other important thing is certainly technology. Now, when I'm talking about this, some people may feel that why are we talking about load bearing in a high rise? Now, first important factor, friends, and I presume ASSOCHAM has a pan-India presence. The definition of a tall building in NBC is 15 meters, 15 meters. And it goes to be it was 70 meters in Mumbai earlier, now it is 120 meters. So what we understand by tall buildings or high-rise building is also a very relative term, and it keeps on changing from place to place. So we can use, say, reinforced concrete blocks in a relatively lower end of the high-rise constructions. Drywall partitions, certainly they are lightweight, easy, fast to install, that reduces dead weight, that makes the building more efficient. It has good heat and acoustic insulation, reduction in steel and cement consumption. It uses gypsum, good fire rating. Most important, it is an engineered product. So we can actually decide the parameters and manufacture the drywall panels accordingly. Gabions, use of gabions instead of conventional RCC walls or any other kind of cement regular constructions is one other way one can look at. Bioenzymes can be used. Now, these are some of the things. There might be many technologies, but what I'm saying is it's not only, we need to look at the overall aspect of a project. You know, you can even make it sustainable by having lesser thickness of your pavements. You can make it sustainable by having no fines pavements which allow water to percolate. So one needs to look into various technologies available. During construction, when you look at it, what is most important is high-rise have large number of repetitions. So difference between a high-rise and a conventional building is the number of repetitions. The same false shutters repeat for many number of times, and that is why industrialization of construction is what we should look at. If we look at industrialized way of construction, certainly we can save on material, and that way reduce the carbon footprint of the buildings. GFRG, which is glass fiber reinforced gypsum, even as a load bearing wall members could be it could be certainly used with great deal of advantage. Secondary steel we already discussed. 2D and 3D precast, because I think any material which is wasted in this process is also going to affect the sustainability of the building. Use of recycled water for post-treatment in concrete, I think, is another area we should focus on. Very, very fundamental things. I am not talking about something which is a rocket science. It can easily be done, but are we doing it is the question, or are we using the potable water, which is the easier way out? Use of curing compounds, thereby eliminating water for curing. Use of alternate power for construction, solar, small wind turbine, or any other source. Are we using it? I think this is a question we need to ask. Use of ultra high performance concrete to increase durability and life of the structure. I think what I feel as a practicing consultant is, if I can increase the life of the high rise which I am constructing, am I contributing to the sustainability of high rise in the process? So if my life expected lifetime service life of that building is 75 years, can I make it 100 years by using, say, ultra high performance concrete or any other techniques? Automatically, I do not need to replace the building for that much period of time. Am I making it more sustainable? That's just a thought for us to ponder on. So industrialization, again, a lot of problems which we were talking about of unskilled laborers, using proper use of our laborers, giving them better facilities. All that could be sorted out if we go for industrialized way of construction. It also virtually reduces wastages to zero. This is an example of 2D precast, which is very commonly used. The newer ones could be 3D precast or what is known as volumetric precast, very commonly used in Singapore. Many of the buildings which we saw in Singapore do use 3D precast. Very fast, no wastage, reduces labor and uses skilled manpower rather than using unskilled manpower. Glass fiber reinforced gypsum boards, I think this is way to go. We will have to look at using these both in external wall panels as well as internal wall panels wherever we are using it. Simple things like, you know, biomass converters on site which give you elements which can be used in landscaping, thereby reducing the weight and in fact the Singapore example which we saw where there were a lot of landscapes, a structural engineer would require something which is light in weight and which retains water, because if you go conventional way you'll require huge amount of soil cover. You probably won't be able to do it, but we can use local waste and convert it into easy and affordable options for landscaping. I think there are services guys who are going to talk about it, but IoT based systems, and I think this is where I would totally agree with the discussions which have been happening. Importance of monitoring, because one is we talk about something which is being done and the other is whether it is actually getting implemented. So IoT based sensors, regular preventive maintenance of water treatment plants and STP plants. Vilas Avchatji made a point. Are we establishing these particular things as mere compliance, or are we really conscious about the sustainability? I think this is one question we as fraternity need to ask ourselves. Do we look at the statutory agencies to tell us that, oh, I will monitor and if I find something is wrong, then I will penalize you? Or should it be something which we need to practice on our own? Or should it be a combination of both? You know, because many a times we have seen STPs have been they are functional on the day of occupancy certificate, thereafter they are not functional at all. Structural health monitoring, we talk about several parameters. The structural consultant to a high-rise committee would submit parameters that this is what we have done. Does it really, does the structure really achieve those parameters? I think today there is no means of checking it. We just hope that since the design is done and kind of reviewed by us, we will achieve those parameters. I think it is extremely important to have monitoring. It will also help us in refining our codes, thereby making it more sustainable. Use of energy efficient appliances, I think speaker after me who is talking about MEP will talk about it. I don't want to get too much into it. Sustainable power sources, recycled, treated wastewater, I presume they will talk about it. We have to have IoT based sensors, IoT based monitoring, which also gives the summary back to a monitoring agency. I think if something like that happens, we will generate huge amount of data. And as what Rakesh Kumar sir also said, I think the data which we should generate out of these things will help us in fine tuning our standards in future. The other important factor, which I feel again as a practicing consultant, not only as a high-rise committee member, is the concept of incremental initial investment and the paybacks. I think this needs to go down to the owners and to those who are constructing the buildings, because many a times what happens is the initial cost itself, they would say that no, I do not want to go for these kind of things. And particularly we are now also constructing high rises in affordable housing segment. They are not only premium housing. We have 40-story slum redevelopment rehab buildings. Earlier, they used to be sale buildings, and the rehab buildings were restricted to some 22 floors or 23 floors. Now we have 40-floor rehab buildings. I think we need to look at these particular aspects. The other thing is sustainable appliances being replaced by non-sustainable appliances later. You know, who is monitoring this? A factor which needs to look into. Poor maintenance, again, a feed should be given to MPCB or some other monitoring agency so that these kind of things don't happen. Poor maintenance of structure, again reducing the life, service life of the building, thereby resulting in the building being pulled down and being reconstructed in lesser period of time, according to me, is waste of resources and is not sustainable. So what I feel is, can we avoid high-rise buildings? I think probably the answer is no, as the speakers have mentioned earlier. Therefore, we should try to consciously make it more sustainable and reduce their impact on environment. I think these were just thoughts I had, and maybe we can discuss in detail in the group discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mandale. I think a wonderful presentation again, covering all the aspects, especially I think the various ideas you gave regarding materials and the technologies. Very, very interesting. I think many of the people probably are not aware of these technologies. I hope that this webinar will be shared at a larger platform so that architects and students will benefit out of this. I think specifically also you referred to the ideas of waste and circularity in the design of buildings itself. So, these small little things that you do, whether it is the use of GFRG or the use of the AAC blocks or things, ultimately they have a larger implication towards, what kind of building you're designing and how sustainability is done. So thanks a lot for sharing all those ideas. And I will go without wasting time to the next speaker, Mr. Ugendran Chatiyar. He has a master's in mechanical engineering from BITS Pilani, Rajasthan. He's a member of ASHRAE, ISHRAE, Indian Plumbing Association and Institute of Engineers. He has 20 plus years of consulting experience in the field of MEP services and has designed more than 100 plus projects all over the country and abroad across various sectors such as hospitality, airports, hospitals, IT parks, and so on, residential, large infrastructure projects, master planning, and so on, agro-food industries, engineering sectors. His company is associated with more than 20 plus high-rise buildings of 200 plus meters tall, and also other projects like APCRTA, Amravati City Capital High Court, Assembly Buildings, Bindi Bazaar Redevelopment, BITS Pilani, Hyderabad, and many, many others, to just name a few. So over to you, Mr. Chettiar. Please give us your thoughts.
Can I share my screen?
I think. Yes, I think so. You could.
Yes, you have the right.
Yeah. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, done.
Okay. First of all, very good evening to all of you, all the committee members, and also the participants who are there in the webinar. Let me just quickly take you through the MEP perspective of any high-rise building. Number one, when it comes to the sustainability, is basically we need to ensure that how we are going to design our high-rise building, or maybe any kind of a building from the perspective of sustainability, which means that we have to very conservatively design the equipment which can be really energy efficient, and we have to use the less amount of natural resources, taking into consideration, current population, even the future generations also, without any compromise of their natural environment. So when we do the design, we have to take care of even human being and also the other living being surrounding us. So basically, we are talking about the coexisting. That's the most important, concept which was there in the past and even now, and that's the biggest focus. And when it comes to, even for the, agriculture, you must have heard of the permaculture. So wherein you live along with the trees, and that's the way you make the natural environment, more sustainable. So when you come to, the MEP services, let me, highlight very specifically whether the high-rise building or, low-rise building. People have been, we have been discussing even in the earlier session, couple of speakers says that, is it possible to avoid the high-rise building? No, it is not possible, because, taking into account the constraint of the area which is available for the, population, and a lot of migration which are happening into, the city areas, I think the estimates are saying almost about another 1 to 1.5 billion population are going to migrate from the villages into the urban cities. So which means that evaluation and even the density of the high-rise buildings are definitely going to be inevitable. So what we say when it comes to MEP services, when it comes to high-rise building, the complication actually comes into picture because you are going much higher above the ground level, maybe about 80 meter or maybe 100 meter, 200, 300 meters. Some of the buildings are 400, 500 meters also. So the moment you talk about the high-rise building, the power consumption is really very high. And because the verticality increases the intensity of the services, and it's the space available for the service is also very tight. And with respect to the given layout which is being given by the architect and the clients, as a MEP consultant, there is no other way you have to manage and live with the footprint what is being given to you, because you won't have any authority to dictate anything, because it's all about at the end of the day how much you are able to sell it and what cost you are going to sell it. So the FSI comes into picture, and those are the very important factors. However, when it comes to MEP, we need to ensure that how simple we can keep the building, how straightforward the design which we can keep it is very important. The moment you attack these two areas, making the building very simple and making the building with a very straightforward design, automatically it becomes to a less power consuming and easy to maintain building. And all know that the low-rise buildings are easy to maintain. Buildings are about 7-story, 10-story, 15-story. Let it be from the any kind of a perspective you look at it, maybe from the air conditioning or electrical or plumbing, any perspective if you look at it, the low-rise buildings are much better. So how are we going to really implement all the factors which are, you say much safer, much simpler, much easier to operate, and how are we going to implement all those things when it comes to a high-rise building? That's the most important factor one has to really look at it. It's applicable for any kind of an engineer who is going to get in who are already into the consulting field, because you have architect and the structural consultant and the client. So they are, when it comes to the services, it's very important. They are definitely depending only on the MEP consultant and their knowledge, and totally it's left to them how efficient they make the system into design consideration. So what I would say, any kind of a high-rise building, the first thing is that you keep the low-rise building concept in your mind and follow the divide and rule principle. Even if the building is about 200 meter tall, 300 meter tall, 500 meter tall, the principle goes very well, that divide and rule principle. So if a building is about some 200, 300 meter tall building, divide the building into multiple low-rise buildings. Say about you take about 20-story, multiple, say there are 60-story tower is there. Better you divide the building into 3 segments. You are 20, or you take 30-story and 30-story. So which means that even if you talk about 60-story building, so the moment you divide the building into 2 parts, so you are talking about 30-story building. So that simplifies the design content and the design intent of the entire project to the normal low-rise building, which will give you multiple advantages, which we are going to discuss in the next pages as we go further. So basically, you divide the high-rise building into low-rise building, which will simplify the design services design distribution, and also the power consumption. Now, how are we going to achieve this? As you said, that as you increase the number of floor from the ground level, and at the same time you increase the number of basement floor below ground, which is really going to put you into trouble. The more the number of basements you go below the basement, which are number one, going to increase the number of car parking floor. The moment you go down, then you have to do the basement ventilation, exhaust, which are definitely you can avoid it by going for podium parking. Podium parking is much better. You just see the comparison between going down to the basement, say about 5 basements. There are some projects there are 6 basements, 8 basements, right? So the moment you convert the basement into a podium parking and eliminate the basement, you just keep one basement for the services, and the rest you push it to the higher end. You are able to completely eliminate the the ventilation, exhaust, fan, power consumption. Fans which are going to work continuously, 6 ACPH you have to keep, and in case of fire you have to make it to 12 ACPH, right? And at the same time, when there is a fire situation, just imagine a building with about 2 or 3 towers or maybe 5 towers of about 200 tall building. The basements are definitely going to be a larger footprint, which is almost about 1 lakh square feet or 2 lakh square feet of 4 or 5 basements. So you are increasing the chances of even the fire load within the basement also. You are making the things a little bit difficult for the people who are there in terms of going for the basement. So all what we need to, this is actually, as I said, that we as a single person won't be able to control anything. It's the principle being driven by the architect and our clients. That's how they have to decide it. So in principle, to say that yes, you keep the car parking floor as high as possible in terms of podium, and reduces the number of basement floors down below, and keep the basement floor just for the services, maybe 1 floor. Because everybody would like to say that no, we don't want to see the services. That's the principle of any architect or interior designer and client for that matter. They always say that they don't want to see the services. That becomes the biggest challenge to any MEP engineer. So you have to hide the services. So now, as you said, that there are no basement, or maybe 1 or 2 basements just restricted, so which will reduce the ventilation load. And other most important subject is that due to the climate change, and there are many things which are happening. In the last 5 years, you look at it, the number of flooding which you had seen 15 years back or 20 years back, as compared to that, nowadays the number of floodings are really very. Even the cities which has not seen rainfall, and it's all just getting a cloud burst and a huge amount of flooding. So just imagine when you got a building with about basements and keep all the services in the basement, you are really putting the building in trouble. Because you look at it, I think when you talk about the high-rise building, let's not think only about a residential building. It's not just only the residential building. You have commercial building, you have office building, even hospitals are also, nowadays going for high-rise building, about some 15-story, 20-story, 25-story. There is no limit for that one. So, why I'm saying this, you need to keep your services away from this particular area. And the main reason is that if you look at this kind of a flooding situation, you need to ensure the services are continuously running in this kind of a situation when there is a natural calamity like flooding. That's the time you need these services functioning. In a normal situation, when the services are not functioning, at least you can take a call within about half an hour, 1 hour. You can do something and bring the services back in operation. In case of a flooding situation, look at hospital situation. What will happen to the hospital? People who are the patients who are there in the OT. There are operations being performed. There are patients who are there. If there is a huge flooding, the water will be there for about a week's time or 10 days, because none of the cities have been designed to take care of the conveying the flooding water back to the sea. So that's the biggest issue. It takes about 10 days or maybe 7 days. Equipments are out, everything. So it's always advisable that you try to create some kind of a services block, or keep your services either at the ground level or at the higher level, because you can keep the transformer, substation and DG sets which are at the higher level, maybe ground, you can keep it at the first floor also. We are doing a couple of projects where we got the special permission after insisting with the client and the architect. We got the permission to put all these very essential equipment which are supposed to continuously work in case of natural calamity or any kind of a worst situation. These are the things which have to work to power the building, to keep the occupants within the building with staying inside for about a week's time or 10 days, something like that. That's very important. And as I said that the layout is controlled by the floor plan of any building is controlled by the architect, and even including the the efficiency of the layouts. So there are certain advices we always give it, and this is a challenge also being posed to many of the building. You look at the external staircases. Yeah, the moment you put the staircases as part of the internal core, it's very difficult. You are increasing the number of pressurization fan, and the building, has to depend. The staircase has to depend on the, mechanical ventilation fans, and the lobbies which are somewhere in the middle of the core, which will make you to go for only pressurize the system only. Right, so you are dependent on the mechanical ventilation, and even for smoke extraction, you have to have the fan for all those things, which increases the power consumption. So you are totally going away from the sustainable, and you create more problem for the building, and the power consumption of the building actually increases multifold. And you try to, give a solution that, okay, we try to do some kind of a, solar power panel and all those things. You create the solar power panel, but reduce all these things by default when you are doing the basic design only. That will help you to reduce the, the power consumption of the building from the passive perspective. Active perspective, yes, that the design, can be taken into account when you want to really, put the mechanical fans for certain areas which are inevitable that you have to pressurize it. That's fine. And we have seen many of the buildings, people, they always come up with, clients and architects come up with putting the toilet blocks in the middle of the building, which means that there's a corridor for the, people, and the toilets are in the corridor, which increases again the power consumption of the building. You have to put the toilet just with the mechanical extraction, and you need the bigger shaft, right, and larger floor space is required for maintenance also. So the moment you put the toilet block to the external periphery of the building and including the kitchen and the pantry, the one thing is that you are reducing the shaft dimension. Number two, you are giving the ventilation which are naturally available for the toilets in a residential building. This is the biggest problem, and even kitchen, keeping the kitchen facing the external side of the building. Even in case of a little bit of a fire which is starting from the kitchen and an apartment, you can really handle it very easily. So certain things can be taken into account. And when it comes to general MEP selection, I would suggest that yes, the codes which are already available from the many bodies like ECBC and IGBC, GRIHA, like a lot of other codal standards and codes available, which are already dictating what is the minimum efficiency of the equipments which are to be taken into account while selecting it. So which are by default, people have to follow it. I think we will not focus much more onto it. And we have also seen that, when a building is, energy modeled, that really talks about in advance and how efficient your building is, we would always recommend that energy modeling to be done for the building. In addition to that, the more focus is to be given, for all this complicated building with a, building information modeling with a Rivet, which will help you because you don't have to really get into a lot of rework, and very well how exactly the systems are going to look at it, and which will further allow the people to look at the many more efficiency parameters. And when it comes to HVAC, now to get it back to very specific things like the area one is the HVAC. In HVAC, as I said, that you have to select the equipment efficiency in line as per guidelines given by ECBC, IGBC, and GRIHA, which are all giving multiple rating. You got the 3-star, 4-star, 5-star rating, and gold, platinum, there are many things are available. So with respect to the rating being targeted, people can definitely go for it. And as I said, that these codes are also talking about better U value and SIGC value as a minimum guideline. People have to definitely follow that, and anything better than this is always advisable and recommendable, not to go anything less than that. And in case of commercial building and hotels and other things like this, where there is a centralized chill water system, people can go for high efficient chillers with high reliability chillers, which will definitely reduce the cost of the pumping also. And people, instead of simply going for primary variable, people can think of going for variable primary system, which are really the latest one. You can save at least about some 7 to 10%, as compared to the normal chilling system. And the other factor what we have seen is that instead of going for the distributed treated fresh air unit, we always recommend to go for a centralized TFA system, which is a treated fresh air for the complete air conditioning. Because nowadays, even the COVID situation also, people have never thought about it. But if you look at even the existing building, all the offices building, it's all enclosed with the glazing and everything. You are really scared to switch on the AC, and there are almost about some 30, 40 people are staying within a single office. If you got a centralized TFA, then you can treat the complete air which is coming from the top, from top to bottom to the multiple floors, which will help you to some extent with whatever the treatment you can do. You can even also do the HEPA filtration from the top and take care of it. And for a hotel commercial building, yes, as we said, that there are energy saving factors like AHS with the VAV unit, and BFDC you can go for it. And the inside temperature is very important. When at the time of designing, it's very essential for the consultant to recommend to the client that where the inside temperature we have to maintain, they have to advise it that, like say for example, if corridor can be designed for a higher temperature as compared to the guest room or maybe the office occupied area, right? So by which you will be able to save a good amount of power consumption. And there are fresh air requirement and exhaust requirement which have to be met, and ventilation and air conditioning is two subjects which generally goes hand in hand. We have already said that make the building as simple as possible, where you got the staircases and, lift lobbies and, corridors. If you make it more cross-ventilated, which will definitely reduce and avoid the smoke extraction and the pressurization in all those areas. Because most of the building, if you don't keep the staircase in the, corridor and try to, at the external side of the wall and try to put it on the core, then you are making the complete building life miserable. You are making it much more, tougher for the designer and also the power consumption also. Then after that, there's no point in really saying about that, yeah, we make the building more energy efficient and sustainable, because by default, the design is, calling for all those additional mechanical and ventilation fans, which are really not advisable. So it's not single person's, control. Everybody in the project team has to take care of it, right from the client and owners. There are multiple stakeholders. As a MEP consultant, he has to go by what other people are, giving the drawing as. That's where, you are bitten by. And at the end of the day, you have to make sure that the system works very well and integrated very nicely. Then you have a integrated building management system, which is anyway there, since many years. This is not something new. And what is not there is that, IoT-based, systems you can really think of, which is really getting more and more popular. Yes, ma'am.
May I just interrupt you here because we are running out of time. If you could summarize the key points related to sustainability, then we can have more on the discussion.
Sure. So you can take it for IoT-based system wherein you will have multiple sensors and you can control it in a better way. And as I said that for the high-rise building, you go for always multiple blocks of a low-rise building with a brake pressure tank to reduce the water pressure in the building. Water-saving fixtures are there. Rainwater harvesting, you can go for it. Percolation pits, which are being practiced everywhere. Instead of going for the rainwater harvesting tank in the basement, you can keep it at the higher level, and so that you can use the water directly from the upper level to the lower level without doing any much of a pumping. And STP is another one important subject. You can take care of it by keeping it at the basement one or at the ground level. And there are centralized, solar hot water system. You can go for it with a heat pump. And recycled water, yes, people have, it's been in practice that people can use it for flushing and, domestic after the recycling. And when it comes to STP, there is a technology called SBT, soil biotechnology, which is more, sustainable and less power consuming, because all power consumption is just only restricted to the pump, and the rest is by multiple layers of, filter media, so that people can think of going for it. This is how it will look like. And electrical, I would say you reduce the fire load in the building, so go for the rising main instead of going for the cable, which many people are going for it. And most importantly, don't go for a centralized metering system at the ground floor. You go for the distributed metering at each and every floor, which will reduce the amount of cable, which means you are reducing the fire load in the building. Because high-rise building is always having a problem of the fire. When there is a fire, evacuate the people, it takes at least about 1 hour, and you can't even imagine people using the staircase to come down. So make the system simple design, which will be helping. And firefighting, we always say that design the building into multiple levels. Say for the 60 story, you break it into two, 30, put one underground fire tank and put another fire tank at the intermediate level with the service floor. Then your firefighting system will become much more simpler. So many of the other points we have already discussed. Fire towers are required, and don't forget to integrate the CCTV access control system with the fire system, and go for the IoT-based system, which can be monitored from the centralized system. And most importantly, whatever you do it's very important that do the testing and commissioning of the entire system for all logics which have been built in, and record the data maintain and update, and go for the regular fire drills and inspection so that you can ensure the healthiness and the equipments are ready to install. So these are the few points which we recommend, and we always say that is the highest challenge for anybody who is designing the services for a high-rise building. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Thank you, Mrs. Chettiar. I think service is definitely the most important thing in a high-rise building. And let me introduce now the last speaker. We have, crossed the time limit. Architect Rajiv Taishete is principal of the firm Rajiv Taishete and Associates, and is an experienced architect with about 1,000 projects to his credit in the last 35 years of practice. He has worked in a large spectrum of projects in Thane, Raigad, Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg districts, ranging from residences to public amenities and so on. He has a master's in environmental architecture, and he has more than 12 years of experience in the educational field and has also ventured in environmentally sensitive architecture. Over to you, Rajiv.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
good. So I think everyone has covered everything. I think there is a little to speak for me, but still I am trying, and still I will explain something. See, as you heard that the cities of Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 and Tier 4 are developing, and every high-rise structure is coming up like a fashion. So it become a fashion. Every architect or every city, every council, every corporation, every regional area has permitted by law the new development control regulations for A class, B class, C class and D class municipal corporations, municipal councils, Nagar Panchayats and regional plan are permitting every development in high rise. The high rise definition is the building above 15 meters by National Building Code. So I feel that the financial sustainability for redevelopment is governed by this high rise buildings, because basically these high rise buildings concept has come up with redevelopment of some areas with incentive FSI, and they should go higher and higher, and they should create more spaces as a community spaces to these particular occupiers. But it is not happening. I think the high-rise building, everybody is thinking of its structural ability, structural stability, everything. I know if it is a high-rise building, the more the load, more the steel it is going to consume, more the higher quality of concrete it is going to consume, more the ventilation part, more the firefighting equipment. It has to be there, because we are going vertically instead of going horizontally. See, once we go vertical, we should think of creating community spaces at every 5th floor instead of refuge area. That should be, the law permits a service core in between a particular multi-storied building, and they are permitting only 1.5 meter height below beam level for the particular services. They are not considering this particular area. They could use it for their community spaces. See, the tenement density is more in high-rise building. They need something, they need some services, and that services has to be in the building, in the premises, or within the building, or around the building. So around the building there is no space. The space is kept for parking. Everywhere parking. Everyone is thinking of parking only, but not thinking of the occupant. So occupant's requirements should be thought. The thought should be given to occupant's requirements, and that should be incorporated in this high-rise buildings regulations. It should be uniform high-rise building regulations, and we should promote that. We should go for a roadmap of high-rise building regulations, and we should prepare it properly. Rather, our ASSOCHAM community should do that. And the high-rise building, they are going up and up. We are giving parking areas at a different level, and the parking we are providing at a higher level, it means we are polluting the layer at a higher level air area, and that we are polluting by providing the vehicular parking and the vehicular movement. See, the high-rise building is almost above the tree height, so there is no tree plantation, there is no air movement. So the pocket should be given in the building to circulate the air. The high-rise building is diverting the wind. The wind, once the wind is diverted, the tunnel gives some vacuum, creates some vacuum behind the tower, and it gives some adverse effect to ventilation. So that should be thought. Then the light and ventilation, the wind velocity. If we go up and up, the wind velocity increases, and it is they are unable to open their windows also. They are not enjoying that wind because it has a high pressure. So specific design and specific thought should be given to that. That is more important. And the vertical gardening, vertical plantation, vertical terraces has to be thought well. The advantage of higher level wind should be taken for generating power, as a windmill or some wind turbine or something like that, and that should be provided for the services in the building. So the particular electrical load will be reduced, and the water and sanitation is also a big problem for this, and that is giving the more load on the municipal services. So the water coming from the upper floor should be given some aeration, and it should be cleared as much as possible once it comes down to ground level. So that will help to reduce down the load on the municipal effluent treatment system. So that should be given thought. The refuge area, refuge floor. Instead of giving refuge floor, I think there should be a community space where the children could play, they could cycle, make cycling something, they could plant something, and they could gather somewhere. So the fear of fire will go away, because that particular floor will act as a refuge area and community space, and that has to be think properly. So I think these things should be think proper in this our this thing, and we should comply with that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rajiv, for very brief but very important points you mentioned. I think I'll take the discussion further ahead, starting from this point that you mentioned about financial sustainability, about FSI. How especially in places like Mumbai, the entire concept of high-rise has been driven by the rehabilitation, redevelopment, or SRA schemes and so on. And as a result, it has not really provided the solutions the way it should have been. So coming to Mr. Architect Vilas Abjad, I want to ask you this question, that consumption of FSI and parking, these are two issues that are predominant in the design of high-rise buildings. So what are the challenges that you face in terms of design, and what are the important design and planning considerations that are probably now not being looked at, are currently overlooked in the race to accommodate this FSI?
Regarding the planning point of view, if we see, the FSI available right now for the development of the redevelopment, rather I can say, because in Mumbai there is no vacant plot, very rare vacant plots are there. Most of the plots are already developed. The old dilapidated buildings, which is CES category buildings, 33(7) I can say. In that 33(7), which is a DCA regulation, in that if you see, the FSI available is 3, and right now with the fungible FSI we get 4.05. So to consume that, plus you get a free staircase, lift lobby, parking floors and all. Okay, the plot sizes if you see are very rarely are more than 500. There are many plots which are very less. So the government is saying, the corporation is also giving incentive if you try to come out with the 2 or more plots together and all. But here in the Mumbai, if you see, I can say in the Shivaji Park rather area, not a very rare plots are there which are more than 500 square meter. So in single plot, you have to leave the space for the fire engine, that is a 6-meter open space from one side. Rest of the area, if you try to consume, you cannot build anything. So you need to provide a parking also for each and every tenement. Now all are tenanted buildings. If you don't give any tenant as parking, right now they may not have. The parking is on the road. The road is blocked. Of course, that is corporations look out, which corporations should take care of that. They should ask them to park within the parking lots, but it is not happening. Forget about that. That is BMC's care, which let them take it. But here, if we architect provide a parking lot within their own building, what happens now? You have to first. I mean, I'm talking in a sense of not only architect, but in a sense of a developer. If you see, the developer has to plus convince tenants. The tenants has so many problems. They should get agree. Now the government has come with the 50% or 51% consent. Earlier it was 70%. To get the 70% consent was very difficult. Okay, that is their lookout. But still then, tenant has their own demand, corpus fund is demand, their area demand, all these matters, and you have no choice to go high because the lesser open space. Then I agree what Rajiv Taishetty has said, absolutely perfectly right, that a full flow are now for the refuse area, they allow only 4%. Whereas if they allow double or triple or maybe full floor, that can be used as a community hall or community space for the children to play over there. All that can be treated properly, or maybe a terrace gardens, or maybe a urban farming. All that can be saved. Now, if in this COVID situation, people were having so much of problem, why not to have urban farming? So, they don't have to go out to purchase a vegetable available in their own building. So all those thoughts need to give now, and we should come out. These are the basic challenges. You cannot, the FSI has to be there more. Why? Because unless and until, actually earlier the FSI was 1 and the building is constructed. So the open spaces were given more. Now in the same plot you are consuming 4 times, 5 times, 7 times more. How can you imagine without going tall? You have to go high. So that is our basic problem. And if you think of developing 2 plots together, the problem is that here 2 brothers are not coming together properly. How can you ask the neighbor to come together? I have faced that problem, whereas the tenant from one building is saying, no, we don't want to go with those other tenants. Those tenants are not good, as if these people are good. But this is all, fact, which is happening. And, you can't, you have no choice other than developing the same thing to go high rise. Yeah.
So I think the problems exist because of this 33(7), which is mainly related to redevelopment with the set plots, and you have no choice but to construct in those very small plots. And because of this, you have issues related to light access not being there for the neighboring buildings. You have the issues of flooding, because in one plot, which used to be, just for a small number of people, you have completely paved it. And nowadays, Bombay is always complaining that more and more flooding. Of course, it is because of, not one plot of land being left for the water to percolate down. So these are the issues. I think probably something like what happened in Bindi Bazaar, the cluster redevelopment is probably a good idea. If you're saying people don't chat with each other, it's an issue, but I guess we will have to look at the larger solutions for the city. I would like to, I don't know if Dr. Rakesh Kumar is still here. He said that he had to leave for a meeting. Dr. Rakesh Kumar?
Yeah, I'm here. My meeting starts at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Just preparing for that.
Since you're here, we would like to make the most of it. And I would just like to ask, since you covered a lot of key issues in your presentation, that as an environmental scientist and engineer, with all the technologies that you have been able to develop, what do you think are the key environmental related issues? Like apart from the urban design that you pointed out, there were some issues related to air pollution that Rajiv pointed out. So what are the major environmental issues you think, and what could be the possible solutions? And I think that as a member of HRC, you did introduce some of the important ideas as well. So would you like to share some of the key ideas?
So thank you, Roshni. The couple of them I already highlighted. Few of them which are not yet addressed and which will actually need very serious addressing. When we have basement, large scale, mega scale parking. So all that, indoor air pollutants, which we normally think about houses. Now in the podium areas, you will have most of them. And mostly people talk about air change rate on the basis of, say, exhaust fan that you put in. But what happens since your buildings are next to each other, hardly any space left. So when you're throwing that air out, those are actually dirty air. So you need to be cleaning that up and then throwing it out. Then similarly, you have gensets. So whenever it gets used, and if you are leasing it, now there are gensets which are available which need which actually can clean up almost like 99%. So those technologies should be in place when we are talking about doing this. The third thing which is connected to this is that if there are houses where we cannot avoid and there are high rises already built, so the in-between areas, if the light is a major issue, we need to create certain kind of now artificial light system so that the wind in that area gets heated and it escapes out. And so that, artificially some kind of wind exchange keeps taking place. Otherwise, it has been noticed, and it's true, that some of the areas in Mumbai where there were no mosquitoes, now there are mosquitoes. And that's precisely because of high humidity in place, and you have no light going over there, you will have more mosquitoes taking place, and you will have more malaria and dengue, those kind of things happening. Lastly, I also mentioned, I think a few other colleagues, MEP expert was talking about the sewage treatment plant which is being built. There is a need of policy change, but yes, if we just shift to grey water treatment rather than doing complete sewage treatment, there are chances that the treated water would be in good shape to be reused. Because for sewage treatment, it is very, very important to maintain 24/7, and that kind of maintenance is very difficult. We don't really have trained manpower. But on the grey water, people are using across the world, and we should be using it. And it's much easier to treat. It's much more, I would say, acceptable as well for the people who are into it. So these are my major points. When you look at it, there are too many other things. The larger context which I didn't want to highlight here was that while we are building all these high rises, whenever they live their life, and we have to bring them down, how do we do it? That's something which we have to all worry about. This comment was as a general person, I have no idea, but I just thought I'll highlight it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh Kumar. I think I, for one, would certainly not like to live on high rise. I would like to live closer to the earth and to the ground, and just want to escape whenever I want to. I remember that in New York City, when they had this hurricane or something, a lot of the elderly people were sort of stuck, and they had no food, no nothing, and it was really, really miserable. So we have to think of these worst case scenarios where this kind of things can happen, and this is always very scary for me personally. How can you escape from a building? If you're on the 50th floor or something like that, and the elevator doesn't work. So yes, there are some challenges, but some people do like to live in space, as you say, and very, very high floors. You just can't see anything probably. So yes, these are important things. And I think also you mentioned a very important point about the STPs. You know, for many years now, even I and many of our colleagues, we have been talking about rainwater harvesting and wastewater treatment. But in a city like this, you know, where quality control is a big challenge, maintenance is a big challenge. I know that, for example, Hiranandani Apartments, with their first high-rise buildings in Powai, they had done very good STP systems. But then the owners began to complain about the quality of the reused water. They're you know, they're paying for such premium for such property, and this is what they get. So there are many challenges in making something sustainable, and I agree with these points that you have mentioned. But of course, we will take all these into consideration when we are making the ratings for the high-rise buildings. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Yes. And now I would like to move on to Mr. Mendele, who is right now with the high-rise committee. And so I think one of the important questions that everybody has in mind is about the monitoring aspect, which Mr. Vilas Avchar raised right in the beginning, that it's okay, we are doing all this documentation to the high-rise committee, but what happens afterwards is nobody's concern. And you did sort of answer that question in a way, that maybe it is the individual's responsibility to do it. But is the committee sort of considering some kind of monitoring? Maybe, like, you know, initially LEED rating system was forever, and everybody had a plaque no matter whether it was a green building or not. But later on they restricted it to 3 years time, and now everybody is doing that. So what are your comments on this?
Yeah, I think a very important point raised by Architect Avchar. See, I think let's primarily understand what was the role of high-rise committee so that we all understand where it came from. I think high-rise committee originated mainly from safety and impact of high-rise structures. So as some of us might be aware, then in the Unified Development Control Regulations, high-rise committee itself has been done away with. So in Mumbai, the high-rise committee continues, whereas for rest of Maharashtra, there is no high-rise committee. So really speaking, let's not rely on a committee. What did the committee do? Because we had practicing consultants who probably did not have that much of exposure to designing high-rise structures. The committee was a panel of experts who would ask pertinent questions, who would check key details. Thereby, the consultants don't miss on critical aspects. So the way I look at it, it was more of an advisory and review committee, which will ask pertinent questions, whereby the consultants themselves come up with a solution which is sustainable, which is safe, etc. So I totally agree with Vilasji that every project proponent has his own set of consultants, which is architects, structural consultants, MEP consultants, environmental experts, traffic experts, so on and so forth, who actually design the building to be safe and sustainable. They give commitment to high-rise committee that yes, we will be meeting these particular norms. Does anyone monitor it? I don't think. I think it should be done. How can it be done? I think it is for organizations like ASSOCHAM to suggest, because as I've told you, high-rise committee was actually formed out of a safety concern which was expected in a specific case. The matter went to the High Court, then to the Supreme Court, and the committee was formed. As we move towards less and less procedural aspects, even high-rise committees will be done away with. So we should not rely too much on high-rise committees. I think we need to find out solutions which are beyond high-rise committees. So we actually need to design a platform, a system which is within the statute, but which monitors all these things. I think rating with time limit is one such solution, so that I'm rated platinum and then for the rest of my life I'm LEED platinum is not what it should be. It should get reviewed so that I'm worried that I may be reclassified or I may be even stripped of my rating, whereby I should also have some penalties or some loss of incentives. You know, I think unless we do something like this, monitoring is not really going to be very supportive. In fact, one point I would make is when a certifying agency insists on monitoring, there is a trend that people move to another certifying agency. So I think unless across the board, if all certifying agencies do not go for monitoring, what will happen is our developers will find some way out and they will go to an agency which doesn't require monitoring. So I think this issue should be taken by organizations like ASSOCHAM at a more of national level, and this should be taken. I think one other important point which Rakesh Kumar sir stated, and having done doctorate, I think the data which will generate out of this will also help us in having more country-specific regulations. So let's not only look at it as monitoring as a teacher with a wand in her hand or his hand trying to say that, oh, you don't do it, I'm going to cut down your electricity or I'm going to increase your tariff. You are also contributing data which will help in defining better regulations. I think this is what I feel. It is certainly required, but it will have to be at the national level rather than at individual level.
I think the two things that have worked or that are with us as a tool is penalties and incentives. If it comes from the government side, as you say, rating systems, I know that a lot of people reject rating systems which ask for too much monitoring, and they go for another rating system. There's no doubt on that, and that's why it hasn't worked. But penalties and incentives probably can, and also, of course, from the government side, maybe in some way or the other, like property tax related or something like that. But also I have seen a trend that today all over the world, even rating systems are moving towards performance-based metrics like, EPI or wattage per square feet or something like that. So I guess there's no escaping on that point. And things like that can work, percentage of the water that you're recycling or something like that. So yes, thank you very much for that answer. And further, I would have one question to Mr. Chettiar. You have given us a whole lot on MEP and services with respect to high-rise buildings. So I wanted to ask you, are there some new technologies that you can talk to us about with respect to high-rise buildings, whether it is related to fire or with respect to STPs or even solar hot water systems? It is so challenging to put up a whole solar hot water system given that there is hardly any terrace area in high-rise buildings. So would you like to talk to us about any of these new technologies that have come?
See, I would say that, new technology, if you talk about new technologies are already available. Even if you talk about solar panel, keeping the solar panel for hot water generation, as a designer, as an entire project team, we have to find a way where we can install it. Say, for example, I can always tell you, the Amaravati project which we have done, there, it's almost about 300 meter tall building. It's a monumental building of the entire country, right? The capital is getting developed. Just imagine in such a building, how do we, generate the power, and also even how do we generate the, solar hot water with the help of the panel. It's basically, you need to identify the location. Like, for solar power generation, we have identified the complete car parking, at the ground level, which was not there in the project. As a whole team, the thought has been put in, and we created some kind of a shading, that kind of a, facility which will help you for the people to look at, it's like a shade, but actually it is not a shade. And you have panels which are integrated all over the area, almost about some 75,000 square feet of the area which was created as a team. I don't say the credit goes to only one party. This is how you integrate the, the aesthetics of the building along with the services. Right, so that way, if you look at it, you can always, bring it to platform what exactly you want to do it. Whether you want to generate the power or you want to generate the hot water with the help of the solar. Yes, the moment you talk about the high-rise building, the footprint is absolutely nothing. Even a little bit of a terraces, you get it on the rooftop, that goes for party. Because everybody wants to go to the topmost floor and they want to be as close as possible to the cloud. Okay, I don't know what is the meaning behind getting close to the cloud. Are you getting close to the heaven? In case of fire situation, as you said that everybody's, the fear is that as a family, you have kids and people getting out of the building, from 60th floor, 100th floor, coming down, through the staircase. It's impossible for a person to, walk and come down. Impossible. Even a healthy person can't come down by 15, 20 floors, he gets a giddiness and he falls down. So there are a lot of aspects to it. So you don't get the terrace area, and this kind of high-rise building, generally it comes with a club area. Even currently also we are doing about some 6-7 buildings, high-rise buildings. Those are about some 4 or 5 towers of 240 meter tall, right? You can't definitely go to the, rooftop. What you can do is that you can identify certain, very essential area which are not relevant to the, the view of the tenant. And there are club level which are coming up with about, 5-story or 7-story. The entire top of the club, though we have got the swimming pool on the, topmost area, which is also meant for the club, okay, for the party and all those stuff. So we have identified almost about 70,000 square feet of the area. We have created some kind of a roof along with the architect, and there the panels have been kept to generate power and also for the hot water. So this is the way you can, really, bring in the intent of the project fulfilled to generate whether the power or hot water. Right, so you can always, the rest of the equipment you can always keep it anywhere in the basement one or maybe in another service floor. So that's not a big deal at all. So ultimately you are going to go for the pump system only. So this is how I would say that enough of technology is available. What is not there? Everything is there. It's all about how you are going to make use of this technology within your project to make it function, to make the intent fulfilled. That's very important.
Yes, I think that's how you make use of technology. There are lots of new technologies. I know, for example, the Singapore Tower that I talked about yesterday, it was being shown on DW channel, and they were showing how this aquaponics and how vertical farming is being done, how new kind of ideas of urban farming is being introduced to the people and so on. So there are technologies. It's a question of how the design is put together. So thank you for that. And Rajiv Taishete, for you, I think you already mentioned some of the ecological considerations like air pollution due to the parking and so on. So are there, also we have discussed about the problems with respect to the energy efficiency, the kind of walling system that is being used, or the problem to birds and because of the glazing and so on. So are there any ecological considerations, and if there are, then how can we deal with those? And also with respect to the development control regulations, how do you tackle these issues of ecology and sustainability in the DCR?
The first thing is that the glazing, if it has a mirror effect, it is a problem to birds. They come there, they hit that, and they fell down or they die. So that care should be taken, because they become blind because of that, and the glare comes out of that mirror, they become blind. So the minimize the glazing for the high-rise building is more important. Then the second thing is that the vertical garden, you should go for that, because the surface area is increased due to height, and that reflects the heat in the atmosphere. So if you go for a vertical garden, it may be reduced to somewhere. And about the material, walling material, if we go for ECBC complied walling material, or rather something like that, then it will help to reduce the heat spreading in atmosphere. So that way we could do it. And regarding the solar ideas, the south facing balconies or south facing windows, the chhajjas and all, if it is converted into solar panels or solar heating systems, that much area could be used for the heating system and all. Then the second thing, as I said, that the vertical flow of grey water, if it is controlled by giving some chains in between or giving some aeration in between, the final result which will go down to the sewage system will be better. It will be aerated more and the load will be reduced. So that way, this area should be given thought to that particular component. And the podium level parking and these things, the vehicle movement and the raising of my vehicles, all this giving pollution to higher level. So if it is possible to reduce down that, the lift are more appropriate, that take your vehicle to the upper level, park it somewhere just by moving something and get it down instead of giving ramps, continuous movement. And the third thing is community area, play area for the people, those who are staying in that. For that, UDP A5 norm should be considered, because the higher the tenement, the per capita requirements are given in the UDP A5 norms, and according to that norm, something should be provided in the building, within the building, or within the reachable floor. I think, and for that, some consideration or some concession in the height should be given in the bylaws, by the authority, or given in the bylaws. That's it.
I think these are very important points that you have made, and it is very important that they are integrated somewhere in the DCR or in the DSR. You know, many other times we find that we want to use this material, say drywall, and it is not in the DSR, or these materials don't exist, or some regulation has a barrier. So when we are talking about energy efficiency, when we're talking about all of these sustainability aspects, there should be a provision in the regulations for that. Mr. Neeraj Arora wants to reply to Mr. Mahendale's, Dr. Mahendale's talk. Mr. Arora?
Yes. So, first of all, I would like to mention that, it was really a wonderful session. So, it is really good to listen to the eminent architects and designers talking on high-rise buildings, because high-rise buildings are definitely a challenge all the time. So, Shashankji, I would just like to add here that you're absolutely right that almost all the green certification programs are, applicable to the design part and the construction part of the building design. So, say you incorporate the green aspects of these green rating programs during the design, and then during the construction time, and that's it. So once the building is occupied, these programs, stop their role. But when we are designing a good building as per green norms, or as per every ECBC norms or NBC norms, so our building is designed well, constructed well, and then it comes to the operation of the building, which is again a very, very important part, because building is designed good, but if it is not operated good, so it will start consuming more energy, more water, and so. And that's why most of these programs are that certification is valid till 3 years or 5 years or like that, but it is not fulfilling the purpose, and that is why these green rating programs are losing their charm in the society, and that's why there are hardly 7,000 buildings are registered green, and around 3,000 buildings are certified green in the country, which is hardly less than 1% of the buildings being constructed in the country. So now what we are doing is, under GEM Green Building Certification Program, is that we have set up one command center where we are monitoring 4 aspects of the building. One is the electricity consumption through your meters, electrical meters, water consumption, air quality, and fire status. So just for the experimental purpose, we are monitoring these 4 points in our GEM certified, green certified buildings, and these services are available for other green buildings also, or other buildings also, those who want to allow us to monitor their system. So while we are monitoring these systems parameters, what we are looking at as, say, we awarded them the green certification, GEM certification, on the basis of some level of energy consumption, as Roshni mentioned, on the basis of some EPI and water consumption, and so. After construction, whether these buildings are maintaining those parameters or not. So that's why we have set up this command center, and for now this is for the experimental purpose, and if we get successful, we will implement these these features in all our green certified buildings. Obviously, there will be some cost on annual basis, I mean, we can call it like, maintenance cost or kind of. So these features are now available in the green building certification program, and we have already started this. Let's see how, the building and building owners react on this. So that's it.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting and very important, and I think this will actually give us the data, and this will also really serve the purpose, because at the end of the day, it's not a checklist job, to kind of say that I have complied. I think it's our duty towards the environment which we are talking about. So I think operations is as important as design and construction.
Absolutely.
I think that's great. I think we should have more and more agencies doing the monitoring part. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I think this is fantastic, because you'll be surprised, Neeraj ji, that when we used to do research for students went about doing research on existing green buildings, there would be no buildings giving them any data. Nobody would give them the current status, electricity bills. So they ran into a wall when they wanted to collect data on this. And this is very sad. Actually, all of these should be transparent, maybe on a website, should be available. There are many cities in the world where, you can see what your neighbor is consuming and what you are consuming in terms of energy or water. So I think we should get to that kind of level, and then only it can be, everything else is transparent today. So even this data, which is sustainable data, should be known to everyone. So
you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. This data is not available, and and Shashankji, I would like to. I just didn't want to discuss this. But when we are talking about this, I would like to add here that it is, when we discuss this command center point with any developer, so his first reaction is that he doesn't want to share his electrical consumption and water consumption data. So it is really very difficult. So just for the experimental purpose, what we are doing is, we are approaching to the developers, those who are, in good confidence to us. So, so they are providing us the data. We are doing it just for the experimental basis. So this is the biggest challenge when we are, setting up our command center.
First of all, we need to educate builders, developers.
Yes.
So start it from there, I think.
No. What I think, we should go for an app, mobile app, and it should be circulated giving that particular area, means points. If you are here, you are nearer to this. If you are here, you are nearer to this. And that app should be circulated. Everyone will try, every builder or developer. And if he feels that he is nearer to that achievement, then definitely he will contact or he will take certification from us. Okay.
And many times what happens
is more important. That will give motivation to them.
Yeah, and many times what happens is the developer or the owner is interested in knowing that what is the electrical consumption or water consumption of his building facility, but the facility manager or the chief engineer of that facility, he or she doesn't want to share that data with us, so that it can be a problem for him or her.
So that's the challenge.
Yeah.
And a lot of you have talked about IoT, which is also very interesting, because I know of some industries which are now completely monitoring their entire operations of buildings sitting in one city like Mumbai, and they can look at all their operations of their industries, their offices, and in one go they can see everything, what is happening in one particular AC. You can go down to their level. So these monitoring systems are very inexpensive, in fact, and they can be installed. It requires, of course, meters at every level, but that allows you for continuous monitoring, and it allows you a lot of information, which helps you to innovate as well. There are so many things that we don't know about systems, and this kind of building systems, they help us to know more, and therefore, better improve those systems as well. So I think we had a very good round of discussions, and a lot of points have come, and I hope this recording is also available for us to later on look at and make the points for the high-rise ratings for ASSOCHAM GEM. I would like to thank all the speakers, Vilas Avjad ji, Dr. Rakesh Kumar. Unfortunately, he has left for his second meeting. Dr. Mende, Mr. Chettiar and Rajiv Taishete for giving your important points of view, for your presentations, for the time that you have taken. And of course, on behalf of ASSOCHAM GEM, the entire team, starting from Pankaj Dharkarji and Neeraj Aroraji, who have given us this platform, and hopefully that we can take this further as well. Thank you so much. Over to you,
thank
Mr.
you very much. Nicely moderated. Good. Keep it up.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks to everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Karan, please close the program. Thank you.
Yes, sir.